What up, YouTube? This your boys RWBY here today with another RWBY video. Now, since we are at the end of Volume 5, I decided to open up a little poll here on the group I'm with, Team Sunny D. You can check them out on Facebook. They're a cool group, and they love talking RWBY and anime in general. But that's not what I'm here about today. Today, when I thought about the things that I loved about Volume 5, and I decided to give a best of, if you will. So, today we're going to be talking about the best parts of Volume 5. Now, I opened up a poll in Team Sunny D, and this is going to be a 3-part video, but for today's video, we're going to be doing the best moment, the best character development, and the best fight. The 3 basic essentials of the entire thing. Now, the criteria for these were actually pretty basic. I chose a couple of them and popped them on. Like, I just chose the best ones. And with that being said, we're going to get right into it. Character development is important in any story, and that is very true of RWBY, because without the character development in RWBY, none of what we have today would be possible. So with that being said, I'd like to direct you to the 4 choices for character development. We had Raven Broadwin, Yang Xiaolong, Blake Belladonna, and Ruby Rose herself. These 4 characters, I say, had the most explosive growth within all of Volume 4. But as far as it goes, each and every one of them had their own quirks when it came to character development. Me personally, I absolutely loved Blake's character development. And as funny as it is to say, Blake has had the most character development throughout all of RWBY so far. RWBY has probably had the second least, and I say Raven has had the least of all these characters on this list so far. The only reason I say Raven is because while she was introduced in Volume 2, whichever way you want to put it, Raven had an explosive amount of growth in Volume 5 because it centered around her tribe. That and the fact that she kidnapped Weiss kind of stole the show, you know. Now, without further ado, can I get a drum roll, please? And the winner of Volume 7's character growth, and the winner of Volume 5 character growth, my bad, is Raven Broadwin. Raven has the best character growth in this entire volume due to the fact that she went from a charismatic leader to a caring mother to a cunning strategist, and then she went to a woman who was broken on the inside, all within the span of a single season. Now, a lot of people will call that too much, but me personally, I feel that they did it right, especially after the way a lot of people felt that they handled Volume 4. But I digress. Raven, congratulations on winning the character development of Volume 5, but we need to move on to the next major point. Okay, so now we're coming to the best moment of Volume 5. Sorry, I slipped a little bit. Anyways, the best moment of Volume 5 comes down to Yang versus Raven for the relic. Even though it wasn't really a fight, it was a pretty good moment. It had lots of character development, and it was a very seriously emotional moment. We have Yang and Weiss reunite. That was probably one of the most powerful moments in the entire series so far. Then we had Team RWBY reunites. It didn't have the same feel as when Freezerburn reunited. I mean, Freezerburn got the whole ship in Community going nuts. And finally, we have the Team RWBY, Team Juniper party, which was actually pretty dope. But it had a lot of fun moments, like Nora versus Yang, and it just was just. But I digress. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, so let's go ahead and get that drum roll going. And the winner of best moment of Volume 5 is when Yang and freaking Weiss reunited. That was probably one of the best moments. I mean, wow, it was just incredible. Especially when Yang found out that her mother kidnapped Weiss. It was just funny, the reaction she had. But but regardless of how you think about it, the only word that I can use to truly sum up is amazing. The bond that those two shared and the moment that they had, I don't think there was any other way to do that moment. It was just too perfect. But with that out of the way, we need to move on to our last and final category for this video. And with best moment out of the way, I felt there was no better way to end the first part of the best of Volume 5 series than with the best fight of Volume 5. And the fights that came up in this discussion were Cinder versus Raven, for obvious reasons. I mean, that fight had animation that was so good that honestly it put any of the previous fights to shame, bar none. It is hands down to date the best fight in RWBY. I don't care what anyone says, but the polls say differently, or do they? Then we have Nora versus Hazel. I'm counting this as its own separate fight compared to the Hazel versus Ren and Nora, because man, when Nora took that hammer and just wham, sent him through that wall, that was a thing of beauty. Then we have Weiss and Pilot Boy, as Team Sydney dubbed him. I personally just call him Han because the dude was pulling off crap that Han Solo was pulling off, versus the Lancer Swarm and the Lancer Queen. Now, the reason I'm counting this as one of the best, the reason I put this on the list is because that honestly, it was a very good fight. I mean, we see how Weiss's resolve has changed from when she was a student of Beacon to now, because the very first time Danger approached Weiss in such a spectacular fashion was when she was surrounded by Beowulfs, and her first inclination was to try and fight them one-on-one. But as we saw in this fight, she started thinking outside the box compared to what she would have normally done, which is a huge character improvement in and of itself. I already discussed Nora Hazel. I think those are the only ones. Yeah. So, honestly, this fight was a draw between Weiss and the Swarm, Weiss versus the Swarm, and Cinder versus Raven. Those were both very good fights for very different reasons. You can't say that one was better than the other. I obviously have my personal bias towards these two fights because I loved the fight with Weiss, but at the same time, I finally got to see what Raven was capable of. But so it's kind of a toss-up. This one is actually down to personal preference. I personally say that the Weiss fight was better because I, I say that the Cinder versus Raven fight, I want to call it a generic dick measuring contest, basically. Both of them had powers that were beyond the scope of what we have normally seen in RWBY. The fight was regularly fast paced, as is typical RWBY style, but at a certain point, it became supernatural. Once RWBY takes away from what it is grounded in and starts becoming supernatural, we have a, I don't want to say we have a problem. It made for a good fight, but it was a typical anime power fight. And unfortunately, I'm not into typical. I don't have a love for typical anime power fights. That's one of the reasons I stopped watching Dragon Ball Super. I can't stand super fights anymore. But it was still a good fight. So for personal preference, I say that it was, Weiss and Pilot Boy versus the Swarm that takes the best fight of the series. But I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me. So if you think that I am wrong, leave your comments down in the suggestion box. And with that, this has been the best of part 1. Now, if you want to vote for the next round of bouts, which I will probably be doing Sunday-ish, then go to Team Sydney. Why I say Sydney? Go to Team Sunny D and cast your vote. I'm not pulling this from my personal bias. I'm actually going off of the votes that I got. So, if you think that the next round is going to be good, then please go cast your vote. Also, I'm leaving a link in my Twitter. So if you have something that you want to say on my Twitter page, go ahead, follow me on Twitter. I'll probably start updating it once I get more followers. But until then, this has been your boy Zara the Black, and I will see you next time.